Women of the Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASP, contributed to a large part during World War II. Although they participated in grueling training schools and important and dangerous missions similar to the male pilots, they did not receive sufficient support and military eminence, such as being provided uniforms and veteran status for their efforts. They had to fight for equality and acknowledgement from the government that they too were United States soldiers. Their determination helped resolve the conflict of gender parity and made it possible for women to serve in the military as dignified United States soldiers.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
After the attack on Pearl Harbor, nationalism swept across the United States, and there was a great increase in military enlistment. Many men felt the need to leave home and fight on the front lines to defend their country. Women were also very willing to defend their homeland. They worked in production plants, established wartime organizations, and performed a variety of other tasks to aid in the war efforts. Rosie the Riveter was one of the inspirations for women to perform the duties in factories that were typically done by men. Great Britain was using women to ferry planes as part of the Air Transport Auxiliary. Organized by Pauline Gower, 8 women began ferrying single-engine planes around England in 1940. Despite their unpopularity among their male comrades, the women proved themselves capable pilots. The variety of planes increased and more women joined the program, not only from England but also from other nations, such as Poland, Chile, and the U.S. In the United States, with the support of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, record-breaking pilot Jacqueline Cochran tried to use her influence to form a women's squadron. But seeing that it was hopeless, she took a group of women pilots to England to fly with the British ATA. Many women in the U.S. had the urge to fly to serve their country. Nancy Harkness Love, along with the help of General Harold L. George, created the Women's Auxiliary Ferrying Squadron in September of 1942. She hand-selected 28 of the most accomplished women pilots that met her requirements of having more than 500 hours of flying time, having flown multi-engine aircraft, and who had received commercial ratings. These women would ferry military aircraft throughout the U.S. Word spread of a training school for women pilots wanting to fly for the military. This article, posted in the New York Times, tells of the school conducted by Jacqueline Cochran in Houston, Texas. Under Chief of the Army Air Forces, General Henry H. Arnold, Jacqueline Cochran supervised a training program for women pilots. This program was approved on September 15, 1942, as a women's flying training detachment. Jacqueline wanted this program to produce women that could meet the strict requirements of Nancy Love. The 23-week training program began in Houston and included 115 hours of flying time. Training soon moved to Avenger Field at Sweetwater, Texas, which brought better facilities and more and newer planes. Trainees were between 18 and 35 years old and already had at least 200 hours pilot experience. Their training emphasized cross-country flying with less emphasis on acrobatics and with no gunnery or close formation flight training. Eventually, there's little need for two women's groups whose territories began to overlap. The power struggle between Jacqueline Cochran and Nancy Love ended on August 5, 1943, when the two compromised and merged. From then on, the women were all known as WASPs. They were headed by Jacqueline Cochran. Nancy Love assisted her. The WASPs training took place at Avenger Field in Sweetwater, Texas.
It was really secret, and they had to pretend like they were basketball players, and some of them were 5 feet 3 tall because they didn't want anybody to know what was going on.
Out of the 25,000 women that applied, only 1,830 met the minimum flight requirements and were accepted for training. 1,074 women graduated from the program. The sole purpose of the WASPs was to ferry airplanes to and from factories and airfields across the nation. The women were thankful when they received new dress and work uniforms to replace their drab uniforms sized for men. At this point, the conflict of the official rank of the WASPs was still an issue. Women were considered civil service employees, but they were working for the Air Force. WASPs earned only $3,000 per year, which the women used to pay for their room and board, while male pilots earned $3,600 per year. Women did not receive any insurance from the government. During training and assigned flights, 38 women perished. These conflicts did not stop the women from doing their jobs to the best of their abilities. WASPs, though still a secret organization, gained more and more recognition of good merit and flying ability. New assignments included towing targets for anti-aircraft and aerial gunnery, and test and demonstration flights of new aircrafts. Some women even became basic and instrumental flight instructors. When landing at fields that were not accustomed to female pilots, the WASPs experienced hostile feelings from their male counterparts. This increased tension against the WASPs. Conflict also arose when male combat pilots returned from overseas and male trainees were released to fight on the front line. The men wanted to take the WASPs' positions so that they were able to avoid the draft. They lobbied a negative campaign in the media and to Congress against the WASPs. Congress and the public readily believed that the men were more worthy and talented pilots than the WASPs, simply because they were men. Many attempts by several people, including Representative John M. Costello, Secretary of War Henry Stimson, and General Arnold, were made to militarize the WASPs, but were not successful. Attempts to end the program were also made. House Representative Robert Ramspeck recommended that recruiting and training for the WASPs be terminated immediately. He argued that there would be a large protest if the WASP program enlarged any further, and that the program was not a formidable way to spend public funds. The media also joined in on the cruel attacks on the WASPs.
Robert Ramspeck is a sober, studious congressman with an affable air which hides a bulldog's tenacity. He recently took a look at a bill which another smiling, stubborn man, General Henry Harley Arnold, has been trying to shove through Congress.
Published in May of 1944, this article supports Ramspeck in his diatribe against the WASPs and General Arnold. After many debates, Congress rejected House Resolution 4219 to militarize the WASPs, with a vote of 188 yeas, 169 nays, and 73 representatives not voting. This left no future for the heroic women who made up the WASPs. On December 7, 1944, 3 years after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the final class of WASP trainees graduated. Letters were sent to the current WASP members from Miss Cochran announcing the disbandment of the group and her condolences for the women. Media attacks lessened, and people for the most part forgot about the WASPs and their importance in the war. Their accomplishments left no immediate impact on military personnel or society, but the fight had not yet ended. Many women were accepted for non-flying jobs in the Air Force and remained in service throughout the Vietnam War. Others found jobs flying civilian aircraft, instructing, running flying schools, or serving on government flying safety boards. The WASPs pursued lobbying campaigns pressing for veteran status, but met the same tough resistance due to the media's discrimination against the women. Many women remained in contact with each other through the Order of Fifinella, a WASP service organization formed after the disbandment. Later in 1964, Marty Weil, a member of the final graduating class, compiled contact information for many of the former WASPs and planned the first reunion. This was the first time many of the women had discussed the disbandment of the program. Despite the passage of time, their anger was still acute. In 1972, the WASPs held their largest reunion thus far in Sweetwater, Texas. A committee was formed to publicize accounts of the program in the media and to lobby the Pentagon and Capitol Hill. After examining many congressional documents and media accounts of previous failures, the WASP Military Committee, formed in February 1973, introduced WASP militarization bills in both the Senate and the House. Representative Patsy Mink of Hawaii sponsored House Resolution 6595, and Senator Goldwater sponsored Senate Bill 1345. Neither bill made it past their respective Veterans Affairs departments because of opposition to the bills in both military affairs committees. In September 1977, 10 women officers graduated from Air Force Pilot School. This gained significant media interest and was believed to be the first achievement by women in the Air Force. Many WASPs who saw these stories were upset by the positive attention these women pilots now received. The WASPs now had an angle with which to approach the media. Article titles were dramatically different from those that appeared during and immediately after World War II. On October 19, 1977, following 4 months of deliberation, the Senate unanimously voted to add an amendment calling for WASP veterans recognition to the GI Improvement Act. Then, on November 3rd, the House voted for passage of WASP veteran status. The following day, the Senate passed the GI Improvement Act, which included provisions for the WASPs to have their service recognized as active military service by the Secretary of Defense, and to receive honorable discharges and full veterans benefits. President Carter signed the bill into law on November 23, 1977. The WASPs were now recognized as veterans of the Army Air Forces.
It was one of the most important things that I did, but I didn't know it at the time.
The story of the disbandment of the WASPs is one in which ignorance and fear dominated decision-making, and in which cultural assumptions about gender had more influence than the facts surrounding women's actual involvement in wartime efforts. These spirited and hard-working women parted the clouds for future women to serve and fight in the military. They persevered through many conflicts and did not stop fighting until a compromise was made.